How are you doing?
Doing all right. Just hanging out at home, actually,
I
like
know
everybody else.
it feels like Groundhog Day. Every day's almost the same.
Yep, I was joking with my wife. It's like that spot in the show where, or in that movie where, like his old, like I guess, business partner from back in the day, like walks up to Bill Murray, um, and then it's like those are like my kids now.
I know, right? It seems like life becomes a cycle.
Yeah, on the music side, I mean, we're like kind of still on the grind. We're just trying to get a bunch of stuff ready for release, so we're all kind of working remotely at the moment.
Right, yeah. I was talking with a few other bands and it seems like everyone has to become a little bit more creative in,
Yeah,
getting stuff out there and, you know, just coming up with
right,
content.
right. I mean, some of that's doing kind of, I think, the live, some of these like live stream performances. It just, for hindsight, it just kind of worked out for us that we were kind of going to be rolling out a bunch of stuff at around this time anyway. Um, so it seems like somehow there was some sort of plan behind all of this, but we're just kind of doing what we were already going to do. The main downside for us is that we had to cancel a tour, but I mean, we're probably not going to be really like looking back into that until maybe October-ish, I think.
Yeah, that's when you have the show with Saliva scheduled. If,
Right, right.
goes well, you'll do that.
Yeah, there may be like a one-off thing here and there, but where we're at, I think we're all just collectively, like, waiting for stuff to kind of go on the downturn, um, and see. There's like some, I don't know I don't know where you are, but what state are you in?
I'm located in Boston,
Okay,
Massachusetts.
so yeah, so like down here, stuff that they're kind of doing we'll open this and see how that goes for, a month or so, and then, we'll open the next thing and see how that goes. So hopefully, things go okay. But right now it's kind of like, it's hard to take on shows because everything's pending. So it's like, yeah, in theory we would be down to play that show. But it all depends on what's going on with all this stuff. So I think the other ideas that have been kicked around is this whole like drive-in concept.
Yeah,
um,
I've been seeing some memes posted, but that might become a reality where
well, I
concerts
know,
are drive-in.
yeah, well, I mean, or at least for a little while. I think it's funny, he's kind of like almost a comedic musician, that I follow. He's a DJ. His name's Mark Rubier, and he does like kind of like DJ loops where he makes up songs on the spot and stuff like that. And he kind of just went and ran with it and scheduled a national drive-in tour. So,
Wow.
well,
I want to talk a little bit about the latest music video you guys released for Where We Found Hope. I really like
mhm.
the message about the healing power of music.
Right. It's kind of an interesting thing with that song. I think that was definitely the main, I think, theme. And the other part of it was, that there's going to be folks, I think, particularly depending on what genre of music you listen to, whether that's your family or friends or colleagues or whoever, that don't really understand that a particular type of music may have an effect on you, or that things are maybe a phase or things like that. So it's kind of like, um, that regardless of who it is, there's some way in which, um, maybe for some more than others, that music can really help get people through struggles and things like that. The music also, the video also kind of indicates that there's, I think for the independent musician, there's always this concept of like there's some sort of like doorway or regulatory channel that folks have to go through, in order to, say, for example, get on the radio or be on Live Nation or like be on, kind of like mass marketed media or things like that. um, and that there are, folks who may seek to try to like bottleneck and brand and capitalize on those things. um, but it's more of a message of whatever the obstacles are to, as an independent musician, to pushing out music and trying to connect with people. That kind of the independent musician should kind of do whatever they can to get that out on their own. And sooner or later, if you make enough noise, people will hopefully, kind of respond to that.
Yeah, I definitely love that positive message. And the music video is going to be part of a 5-part segment. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it was kind of one thing I think that especially independent musicians do a lot is go through this process of putting out like we'll work on a single or an EP, and then we'll put a standalone video out, and then it's kind of its own thing. And then it's not, it's kind of its own independent living thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I think we just thought it would be more interesting to try to connect an entire EP's worth of music videos with kind of like one continuous story that where each chapter or episode or whatever will kind of relate to the song, but there's still kind of this overarching kind of backstory with characters and that kind of thing. It just seemed like to us another way that would be interesting to people to, for them to view. And as I was talking with the director who did our video, his name's Adrian Arche, and it was interesting to me that for short stories and media, and there's so many avenues on things like Netflix and or different types of channels or outlets for short films and things like that. And it just had surprised me that it's not attempted in music more. This idea that you can, that's kind of like back to the whole, kind of back in the, the Pink Floyd days when people think about these big continuous movies that relate to the songs, and they're also partially documentaries about things and stuff like that. But it just seemed like a interesting idea to connect something and perhaps grab more fans that way. And I think it's another way to visually express what the songs are trying to do. So
I actually love that because I kind of miss that in music videos where there's kind of like a story going along with the song.
Right. And so the hard part about that, and this is the other reason we decided to connect all the videos on the EP together so you could really get through the story. The hard part, I think, as an independent band is if somebody's never heard you or seen you perform, if you give someone a video that's like 90% storyline, it might be kind of cool, but they're really not, totally connecting with like, okay, who are these guys? Like if I go to a concert, what am I going to see? And so the other way is doing like a completely performance-based video, which is always cool as well. But I think we kind of tried to find a balance there. So there's enough performance, but you still get the storyline across. And we can develop that further going into the next video. And I think one thing we're thinking about doing at the end or throughout this is maybe even shooting a couple of extra in between scenes. So when we're done with all of them, we can kind of connect it in one big, 25, 30-minute thing. So yeah, it's always a hard balance. And for this, particularly connecting like the whole thing with the police officers in the video, and then 3 separate independent stories kind of happening all at once to make all of that make sense. I think Adrian did a great job and really listened to us, and with several sessions on the editing side of things just to make sure that it was kind of playing out how we wanted it to. And then at the end, still kind of giving giving the viewer kind of the, well, what happens next kind of feeling as we get kind of carted off and arrested. So
no, I have to be honest, I think it came together really great, and even the beginning, it kind of reeled me in and made me interested to keep watching. So
yeah, because I thought the one thing I felt like really helped this whole thing, and the look of the whole thing were the drone shots that the team was able to get of the Houston skyline, and some of those shots. It kind of gave it a really good context feel. And then right off the bat, you think you're going into a music video, and then you're like, wait, am I watching like Law and Order or something?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it definitely had a little bit of that feel, but I liked it. It's definitely refreshing to see in a music video these days.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, we're just it's there's so many people putting out so much stuff that it's just whatever we can do to try to stand out just a little bit, is I think, without like compromising on, you know, what we are normally.
Right. Well, kind of going back to the message of the song, what album or what song do you tend to turn to when you're kind of feeling discouraged or feeling down?
Oh man, it depends on, I guess, the mood. I always like going and listening to depends. If I would think that, I mean, metal has always done that a lot for me, listening to stuff like Kill Switch, I think, and band that's not doing too much anymore, but I used to listen to them a lot. Straight Line Stitch, Seven Dust is always a good go-to for me. And you know, it's those, I don't know why, but when it's that kind of a thing, I tend to gravitate towards metal a lot, because the lyrics tend to be very abrupt, and they're meant to kind of get an emotional response. And even if it's in a very forward way. As far as other stuff, I end up listening to a lot of just instrumental stuff as well. So even things where it's like no lyrics, but I like listening to Explosions in the Sky a lot. This Will Destroy You. A lot of kind of, I guess, more like ambient type stuff.
Oh yeah, those definitely work, and because they kind of take you on like a roller coaster.
Well, and
maybe like emotions, I guess.
Right. I think it allows you to kind of put yourself in a certain place and time, and kind of relate it to yourself directly.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas certain things, you know, there are times where it's like when you go and listen to the lyrics of a particular tune that kind of relate, and I think that's like where you kind of get that feeling of like, you know, relating back to someone who wrote a song, and maybe it helped you at that time.
Yeah, I definitely get that.
And the funny thing is that, you know, there's been times where, at least in my experience, where it's like it wasn't even a song that you planned on really affecting you. It just was a particular song that maybe you liked, that you really hadn't thought of in a certain way, and then at a given moment you just heard it at like the right time when you needed to. So I think that happens a lot, where it's not even like a song where it's like, I'm going to go listen to my song that I listen to when I feel this way. It's more like I just have a playlist running, or something's on the radio, or it just kind of just occurs, which then kind of makes you like the song even more for, you know, those reasons.
Right. So your music kind of has what you guys describe it as 90s alternative rock mixed with modern metal, which I definitely hear. Is that something you grew up listening to, and that's why it kind of resonates with you? Or
I think we all listen to like a lot of different things. And something on this EP, one thing that's kind of always been an issue for us is, you know, we want to play all the stuff we like. So it's made for EPs that are very diverse. But I think going forward with the newest releases, is we've kind of been able to hone that to where there's a general theme that plays out. But I think from a musician standpoint, there are just things that and a guitar playing standpoint, that I've always really been into as far as metal is concerned, particularly modern metal, just the precision, the tones, what you can do with it. And then to to go back to when I talk about the 90s stuff, I think it was just a good time for people to take a break and really, really think about writing good songs, and that the song is kind of the most important thing. And then obviously I think some of that carried over into, late 90s, early 2000s, not only in rock, but in metal. And then there's been these cases where where the genres have kind of taken from each other and pulled from each other in a way. Things are such a spectrum now. There's that it's almost weird to have certain genre classifications for things. But yeah, I hope that kind of answers the question. I
No,
think
it does. Yeah.
on this EP2, we're starting to do some stuff that we haven't done before, like with Where We Found Hope, where we haven't really pulled in these influences yet, but we're all big fans of kind of like the 90s and 2000s industrial rock and things that are where they're using loops and samples and electronic components. So I'd say some influences that we added to what we already have in this new stuff is probably stuff like Stabbing Westward and the old like Gravity Kills type stuff, or even a lot of the like Nine Inch Nails and a lot of Trent Reznor's kind of work, because I feel like there's a lot of it adds a lot of texture and a lot of space, and it allows us to get some different vibes than we've been able to do before, I think. So we're still very much a rock band. We're not like jumping behind. I don't think any of us are jumping behind turntables anytime soon. But I think adding some of those elements compositionally has been something we've wanted to do for a while now. And then also really building songs a little bit differently. I think as a guitar player, back from the Momentum stuff, which our previous record, there's always this urge to start songs out like, hey, I came up with this guitar riff and I want to start the song out that way, and I want to build the song around these guitar parts that I've written and things like that. And so I think I tried to take a really different approach and kind of build it the other way, build it for some of these songs where it's built from like the drums and bass first, and then around the vocal melody, and then putting the guitars in where they complement the song. It's just a different way of thinking about it for us. So it was definitely something that we wanted to try. And so far, I've really liked where we've been able to go with it. Not diminishing the role, more just kind of approaching it from a different angle.
Yeah, I definitely see that in your music. And I actually was going to ask if Nine Inch Nails was kind of an influence.
For this new stuff, I would say them and kind of some of those big like 90s industrial kind of rock acts. So like I said, Nine Inch Nails, Stabbing Westward, Orgy, Gravity Kills, those kinds of things. Where it's just the thing I liked about a lot of those things where there was electronics involved, but they kind of had to do it the hard way back then. It wasn't all I'm on my computer and I'm clicking on this next sample and I'm clicking on this next sample and
Yeah.
I'm making everything in MIDI. It was, I want to take this synthesizer, but I want it to sound gross. So I want to put it through a guitar distortion pedal and into a guitar amp and then mic it and then do all of these things. So I just think there's a lot of creativity in how they made sounds and approach things that really made it sit with the guitars and the bass and the drums in a very live atmosphere type of way. I think Marilyn Manson would be another good example as well. But so now it's like striking that balance and then still bringing in all of the other elements that we already like. And so it's with this new stuff, there's been a lot of time spent just kind of like writing and recrafting these songs. I think for Where We Found Hope, it ended up getting like a complete rewrite probably twice, and then several kind of like pre-production sessions to make sure it was the way we like the arrangement that we wanted to hit with it.
I'm definitely excited to hear the upcoming EP, Catalyst.
Yeah, we are too. It's been a while. It's been a while. We're kind of in the finishing touches stage of that now. We have the next song kind of ready to go, so we've been in contact back and forth with our director for the videos, and it's just a matter of, you know, what logistically can we do right now. And I think based on what the scope is for the next video, I think there's some ways that we can go about getting things done. So originally the plan, I think, was to release something every 2 months. So in other words, you let people kind of sit with the song, and then we release the next one, and then the next one, and at the end, hey, here's the EP and here's all the
Right.
stuff. The reason we kind of wanted to do that was because it gives everyone a chance to take in each song, as opposed to, I just feel like, particularly with full albums, I think oftentimes what happens is an album will get put out, and then fans will immediately gravitate to like the 2 or 3 songs maybe that instantly resonated with them, and then it's like put those in the playlist, and then the rest of the CD never sees the light of day again.
Yeah.
And so I think with doing it this way, at least we give every song a chance to be fully digested, because who knows, maybe it's a song that doesn't grab someone right away, but you know, after hearing it a few times,
It might
you know,
grow
maybe,
on them.
right. Some songs are like that, so there's no real predicting of that either. So yeah, I think the we've been delayed a little bit as a result of all of this, but I think we're still kind of on schedule to keep going.
Very cool. I hope, fingers crossed, everything goes as planned for you guys.
Yeah, I think I mean, we're just doing kind of what everybody else is doing right now. So one thing I think that at least independent acts should think about is that, you know, everybody's kind of stuck at a certain point right now. So it's not like anybody's gaining any major advantage over anybody else. If anything, I think the independent acts that are playing kind of the mid-size venues and things like that, and smaller clubs, are probably at an advantage compared to large, you know, the big acts that have to go do these big event type shows,
Right.
or likely to, because that stuff may not be back for a little while. So it's kind of like, for the independent acts, you know, maybe there's a little bit of an opening for that, and maybe while all the other noise and stuff of all of the big acts releasing all of this stuff all at once has kind of calmed down a little bit, who knows, maybe it makes it easier for somebody who's on a kind of an independent artist. Maybe it makes it a little bit easier for them to get found. But you know, I think I don't ever think anybody should bank on that. I think everybody kind of just has to build their own thing from the ground up these days. But who knows? Hopefully, I guess that's just my way of trying to keep optimistic.
No, I agree with that, and I've heard a few other people say that as well. So, you know, maybe there's a silver lining for these, you know, upcoming bands.
Right. Well, and you know, who knows? I think, like I said, it's the capacity to operate in smaller venues, because I think at some point people are just going to want to go see some sort of live music. And so it could be that those, you know, the independent acts around the country are the ones that kind of bring that back for a lot of folks.
Absolutely. Well, before we wrap up the interview, I wanted to ask if there's anything else you wanted to promote or mention.
I would just say, in addition to the EP that we are putting out, I would say, again, just thanks to our video director, Adrian Arche with Check 1 2 Productions. If there's anybody in Texas who's interested in working with them, they do a great job. Typically, as a band, we're a bit ridiculous to deal with as far as being behind cameras and things like that. but somehow he made us look like we knew what we were doing. So
Shout out to him.
yeah, but thanks again for having me, and look forward to hopefully more of these in the future.